Welcome back, everybody, to the Marketing Rules podcast. It is my pleasure to welcome on board Sean Allen. Sean, we've been trying to get you on for a little while. I know things have kind of been a bit up and down in your world, but for those of you who are just being introduced to you and just seeing your lovely lock of hair and your amazing beard, which I used to be known for having long hair and a big beard, you now have taken that space from me. Sean, if you can just kind of introduce yourself to everybody listening in today.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be here, James. And I need to see a picture of that long hair and beard at some point. I'm Sean Allen. I'm a head of talent acquisition. Recently entered the market. I'm also one of several co-founders of the talent community, for which James and ThinkinCircles are one of our lovely vendor partners. So thank you for having me.
And it is a pleasure to be one of those vendors as well. So today, Sean, we're going to have a little chat around what is going on in the talent acquisition space. Is it as bad as everybody thinks it is? Is it a blip? What's affecting it? You know, those kinds of things. Because I'm sure a lot of people kind of listening into at the minute, are in the recruitment space, in the talent acquisition space. We've heard doom and gloom for most of the year. I know as of today, we are kind of recording. We're maybe I don't know how many days out from a general election, which is going to make this podcast sound very old very quickly when someone listens to it in a year's time. But Sean, right, from your perspective, and we don't have to go too deep into your own kind of personal situation as it sits in a minute, but you have got some experience with what's kind of going on in the space. Obviously, being part of the talent community, you're primed to be talking to people within the space, and you must be kind of have some kind of insight into, general just kind of confidence. What's really kind of what is the talent acquisition people kind of space thinking in a minute?
Yeah, it's an interesting one, isn't it? Because I think we've had I think talent acquisition as a whole since COVID struck, right? It's had it's been a very turbulent market for people that work in this space. So we saw obviously with COVID a lot of the cuts that in-house agencies, RPOs, many made. We came out and then we saw the big boom, and you just couldn't find a recruiter to hire because everyone was snapped up, and then we saw that quickly crash, didn't we? Within about a year or so. I think since then, the market sort of slowed down, and we've seen, and we still do see, at this moment in time, layoffs or teams being shrunk across different organisations. So whilst there's green shoots of roles coming out there, it's still a really tough market, and there's still a lot of people that are excellent at what they do, whether at a sort of recruiter talent partner level right up to your heads of directors that you've seen in the market. So we're definitely not there yet. I think you touched on an important point there with the general election. I think that being on the 4th of July, the outcome of that, hopefully, whatever happens there, companies will know what's going on and give a bit of confidence. And the high interest rates we had last year as well, right, I think are a big impact on it as well. So yeah, it's not great, but there's green shoots, I would say.
Okay, well, that's good to hear. I mean, a little bit of positivity is always kind of helps. Are there any kind of parts of in any industries where talent acquisition isn't being affected that you kind of see from your point of view? I know kind of you've just kind of moved out of kind of retail and that kind of space. Is there kind of and we heard a lot of kind of layoffs within the kind of technology space, but probably was a bit kind of over reported and and kind of really wasn't as bad as it was kind of mentioned. So, from the community almost that you're kind of speaking to, is there anywhere that's a bit protected from all of this in a minute?
Yeah, it's hard for me to comment holistically on it because I'm not close to certain markets. But you see betting and gaming or gambling that seems to be doing quite well. Apparently, people still always have money for a flutter on whatever they choose. But I think that's in part as well by certain US markets opening up, and a lot of the companies expanding into new markets. So there's definitely some. I think with most things like this, not every market gets hit at once, but I do think we've seen a lot more hit, at a very similar time than we've seen in quite a long while. If you exclude COVID, that is, because I mean that just yeah.
And how do you think that the kind of people within some of these industries that are potentially at risk or have been through that, is there a way that those kind of TA teams and those people within the TA space can almost protect themselves, right? What's the kind of best way to try and kind of, make sure that you continue to stay valuable?
Yeah, I think whether it protects you or not, right? Because I think, business, if we're talking about private companies, which I've always worked in private sector, they're there to make money. So, you've got to be comfortable that your role can always come and go when you're in a market like that. But I think what TA needs to do is you need to be more than just hiring and just bringing people in. I think there's an opportunity at the moment for a lot of people who haven't done so, myself included to a degree, to be honest, to expand a bit further, whether you start learning more about the L&D space or the HR, more generic HR space, or employee branding, right? Where you may not be an expert, but you can actually, add another string or two to your bow. So I do think there's real opportunities for TA to be more than just TA in that sense, and really look a bit more broadly across the business and where there's the skills or strengths that somebody has that they can lean into and start getting involved in other areas.
But that's easier said than done, though, right? In a lot of businesses to kind of explain that, because obviously we've spoken on numerous occasions around the kind of stuff that we offer around employer branding, and I guess there's also a potential argument to say that if you're in the TA space, you should be totally servicing that and not looking at L&D and employer branding. What's your thoughts around that?
It's hard, right? So I look at it. I'll never be an employer brand expert, right, or an L&D expert, and I know that. But actually, by broadening skills or getting involved in more business wide or function wide sort of projects or opportunities, you gain a greater understanding, and therefore you can start to look at TA a lot more holistically, rather than just here's some roles, work with hiring managers, get them filled. There's a bit that you can, we as TA, we're talking to people, understanding the market a lot, so you can see a lot of opportunities, and that might be that there's L&D opportunities where we can upskill people that we're bringing in, or we can bring different types of profiles in to fill roles that might be quite difficult to fill, depending on where that market's going. So I do think there's a real opportunity for us. Unless you want to move that way, you can never be an expert in everything. But what you can do is start to link things together a little bit more, because you're getting a greater understanding of it. So, if we look at the webinar that you did the other week, just that alone, it's like, well, I think I've got a good understanding of employer branding, but actually I've got a better understanding. So I'm constantly trying to learn and seek those opportunities and where those opportunities lie. So it's just interconnecting a little bit more. And I think that's important, because a lot of businesses, or some people, view TA as that very reactive recruitment service. You're just bringing people in when we need people. If we don't need people, we don't need you. Whereas actually, there's a lot of education you can do by understanding the intricacies between TA and so many other departments or business areas. So yeah, whilst you may not be an expert, you can certainly then seek opportunities and make your role a lot more valuable to the business.
I guess, or depending on how senior you are and how big your business is, you can be the kind of introducer of that kind of way of working into the business in the first place, because there might be businesses of smaller businesses who might not be doing anything around kind of learning and development or around employer branding. So it could be you might be the kind of arbiter and the only conduit to have that within a certain business, that whether you are an expert in that or not, you might be the only person that's got any knowledge about that at all within your business.
Yeah, I mean, I've always worked for medium-sized businesses who've tended to always have those experts at what they do, and you lean on them when you need things. Whereas certainly in smaller businesses, and I've spoken to recruiters in startups, and they're kind of doing everything, right? And it's a very exciting and very broad role. So yeah, depending on the business you work in, but I still think whether you're in a massive enterprise or a startup or anything in between, there's certainly the opportunity there to really make sure that TA is embedded from a much more strategic view rather than the quite classic. You just recruit people. You can almost make it as important as L&D is to businesses, right? 'Cause if you're thinking about how are you going out to market from the employer brand and recruitment marketing side to how you're bringing people in and how you're already planning to upskill them before they even join. There's a lot that TA plays a part in there. It's not just stick an advert out, sift some CVs, send them across to a hiring manager. So I do think there's the more you can tap into or learn those broader people, HR, business, and really link it to the strategic side, I think that safeguards the function almost.
And how much is technology kind of playing in the TA space in a minute? And is that something to be concerned about? There's a lot of new kind of tech providers, especially ones that are purported to be or use a lot of AI, that are saying that they can do a chunk of that kind of talent acquisition piece now, right? Is that something that either now or in the future, kind of people within the TA space should be concerned about, need to work with, need to understand more, align with? What's your thoughts around that?
I don't think there's anything to be scared of. I think with technology, it constantly evolves, right? So if you think about talent acquisition, there was days where an ATS didn't exist, and everything was done on a spreadsheet. An ATS became a really helpful tool to use to track your candidates and manage through a process. So it's the same when it comes to AI. I think a lot of AI that people talk about is more just automation. I think there's a lot of tech will already have where you can automate a lot. There is more of the AI around taking away a lot of the pre-bit, especially if it's in a volume area. I think it's really just understanding it and seeing where the value add is and what it brings. But like with any technology, right, you shouldn't be bringing it in because it's cool and trendy. You need to make sure that it's right for what you're trying to achieve as a business, and making sure you've got make sure you've got your fundamentals and your core there, because it's pointless thinking about AI if your process to begin with is completely terrible and you don't have the right base technology in place. So I think it's just always researching, isn't it, and understanding what are the benefits, what are the drawbacks, where is the value add, who does it help, and for me, technology is there to aid. So if I have a team of recruiters, I want them spending their time speaking to candidates, speaking to hiring managers, networking, at events. I don't want them clicking 5 times when it should be 1 click, or getting stuck in admin that you could take away. So I think if it's there to aid, isn't it? But I'd say don't run before you can walk. Right? Get the basics in place first.
But assuming you're in it along that journey and the basics are in place, I guess some of this technology, I know we've spoken to Stan from Scotty, right? And I kind of use Scotty as an example. And I'm sure if Stan's listening to this, he's going to be jumping for joy. But he has been a previous guest, so he's fine. But something like that fundamentally can change the way that someone within TA can do their job and what they do as well, right? So is that the kind of next iteration? Is the role of a talent acquisition person going to change because of this that kind of tech?
Yeah, I mean, all our roles evolve, don't they? I think if anything stays the same for too long, everything changes, everything evolves. I think the role of a TA partner for or a recruiter will change, but you want, like I said before, I want my recruiters to be doing the human bit that candidates want, that hiring managers want, stuff like different technologies. There may be candidates that prefer some of that, so actually you can free up your recruiter's time, but people who want to speak to someone still can. So you can free up your recruiter, but still offer that person, in person touch. So again, it's where it's used. But the role of a TA partner, I think, will evolve, and or recruiter, it has to evolve, right? I think we've never done things the same, or some people maybe have, but I think things do change, don't they, as different things come in. I mean, if you think LinkedIn came out, and then everyone just lived and sourced on LinkedIn, and then that was the new thing at the time, and it's still used widely. But then there's still other ways that you need to find or engage or attract talent. So it's always going to evolve, but I think that's a good thing.
And I want to kind of touch on the on the kind of elephant in the room that always comes up with kind of when we're talking in the TS space is recruitment agencies,
Yeah,
right? The who sometimes I think overly get a bad rep. Basically, there seems to be this. There's always this kind of slight tension between in-house talent acquisition kind of teams and the recruitment agency, and they don't really TA teams don't really want to use recruitment agencies, or is that a complete kind of fallacy? Because I know there's a lot of recruiters listening to this, and I'm sure they would like to hear the thoughts from the inside looking out, as opposed to recruitment agencies trying to look in.
yeah. I mean, for me, it's using agencies where it's right to use an agency. I'm not one for using
You
them
don't
for.
have to be politically correct. You can
No,
go
no,
for it if you
no.
want.
I mean, if I had a team and we're farming out junior software engineers to an agency, I'd be very concerned that my team's not capable of filling roles that would be easy to fill. But I look at it and go, if I had like 60 roles and they were all, you know, bulks of engineers, for example, and then I had a couple of really niche different architect roles, but we just all critical and we just didn't have the bandwidth or capacity to source them all. Well, I'd give away the couple of tougher roles that'll take an agency, more time to source, engage, put through, while I just hit the chunk off one or two searches. So I think it's all about using them when it's appropriate to do so. I don't believe in just sending stuff out for the sake of it, or oh, James is a mate, so I'll just throw it out to James. So yeah.
Well, that brings me on to kind of the next question. This might be giving away kind of like the secrets, right? But if for the recruitment agencies that are listening, I know we do get a few. Um, how do you want them to work with you? You know what I mean? What's the best way that they can kind of partner with you? Because I think there's always, again, to avoid that tension. I know recruitment agencies always want to be on a retained basis. They always want to kind of, they want to kind of be your only kind of vendor that you're using. So, how does a recruitment agency, from your perspective, get into that position?
It's For me, it's trust and transparency. I think some of the best agencies I've used in the past, we've just had a relationship where they understand the process. They understand um, the steps that we follow, so they make it easy for us by following that and not going outside of that. And then just being very open. So I've worked with some before where we've given them a role, and after a few days have gone, look, I'm just not going to be able to fill that for X reason, or here's all the data that I'm finding. I'm not having to wait 2 weeks, not hear from them, and then go, why haven't I had a CV yet? And they're like, oh, well, you're not paying enough, or I can't find anyone with all the skill set. The proactive ones come back, so I've got that feedback and will be able to give me in detail. So it enables me then to go internally and have a conversation, whether that's with the hiring manager about the skills that we're looking for, it's too demanding for maybe what we're paying, or the location, or it could be pay, but that's a harder thing to change often in bigger companies because of structures. So at least you can go in there armed with a lot of insight and data. So for me, it is that just trust and transparency, and just following the processes that are there, because then it goes quicker. Whereas as soon as an agency tries to go around that because I feel it's maybe moving too slow, it just slows things down even more, because then there's more steps being added, more people being added, and it just stops things in the tracks a little bit. So yeah, it's just being very open and honest. I think that's the best way.
So, for any recruitment agencies or recruiters kind of listening, that's the best way to kind of to approach you when you
Me
take your next
anyway. Yeah,
role.
everyone else might be different.
You may well be flooded with them at this point. I'm not really, I do apologize if you are.
It's a long time this
Um,
week.
Sean, I can't let you kind of come on without talking a little bit around the talent community. So for anybody who doesn't know what the community is about, can you give us kind of like the pitch for what the community does and how it works?
I should load up the deck, shouldn't I? The website. So the talent community is an inclusive community for like-minded individuals within the talent and HR space. So that's whether you work in-house, RPO or embedded, or for a recruitment agency. It predominantly lives on Slack, and it's just a safe space where you can go in and just seek advice, seek support, support other people, and answer questions really. So, if you're stuck on something, you're trying to think what stats you want to present to your exec, or you want to find an agency, or whatever it may be, it's a safe place for people just to go connect with each other and learn from each other. And then we also obviously have amazing vendor partners across lots of different things, such as ThinkinCircles for your employee brand and recruitment marketing needs, ATS's background checks, contractor payroll, things like that. So we've got amazing vendor partners that offer our TTC members an exclusive discount if they decide to call them. So it's great, and the best thing I think where it stands out is people like yourself, our vendor partners, are in Slack as well, so you can often get expert answers back to questions, whether that is about employer brand, IR35, whatever it may be. You've got the real experts, in there as well to help.
There's also a really good range of TTC branded clothing and things like that as well, right?
There is a TTC merch. I didn't wear it today, but yeah, I
Well, I
think you've
forgot mine as well. Don't worry, I forgot my t-shirt as well. But Sean, it's been an absolute pleasure talking today. If anybody wants to know more about you, if anybody wants to know more about the talent community, we'll include all of the details in the show notes so they can kind of reach out and kind of find out a bit more. But Sean Allen, for now, thank you very much.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.